7 or 8 years, I've been to 25 different countries, and one thing in common is they do appreciate rap music, and it's popular in every country I've been to, whether it was Asia, Russia, uh, Israel. It didn't matter. Rap was there.
Tired of the negativity on the news? Ready to focus on creation and make some moves? The world is our canvas. It's not even a fight. Artists, it's time to take flight. Welcome to Super Artists. I'm your host, David Carus. On today's show, I've got one of the pioneers of hip hop, an artist who has taken his message to the masses on a global scale. I have Chill E.B.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, it's much appreciated that you're taking the time to do this because you have a lot of fans out there that I'm sure would love to kind of hear your story, especially other creatives, other artists that are out there. Maybe aspiring lyricists, etc. But I think there's probably a lot to be learned from your story, and I have a feeling it's going to be super interesting. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off early, man. Like let's go back in the DeLorean and just go way back in time, man. Like early childhood. Like where did you grow up?
My childhood was really interesting. I grew up in West Germany, actually, of all places.
Oh wow.
I'm originally born in North Carolina. I call North Carolina home,
Okay.
but Germany was the only home that I knew for around about the first 15 years of my life, my childhood. I started elementary school in Germany in a place called Nuremberg, and I went through ninth grade in Germany at Nuremberg American High School. And in between that time, we traveled back to the U.S. because I'm what is known as a military brat, and any military brat out there knows that we are a fraternity within itself. Our life, the way we grew up, almost like a nomad. No place is home, but every place is home,
Hmm.
type of thing. So by the time I was 15, I lived in Germany 3 times, and each time was about 4 years each time. So it was really interesting. I grew up on an American military base. We played all the big three sports, baseball, football, basketball, just like any other kid over here in the U.S. would have done.
So were you at that time kind of surrounded by a lot of other American kids?
Yes, there were tens of thousands of American kids in the area that we lived. But we lived in the heart of a German community. The town that I lived in last was called Herzogenaua, and we refer to it as Herzog Base. And it's about 10 or 15 kilometers from Nuremberg. And Herzog is famously known because it's the home of Adidas and Puma. This is the main headquarters, the factory, and where these huge brands were born. And so, growing up, we wore lots of Adidas, and it was just a great experience.
That's awesome, man. And so was it your father was in the military? Both your parents? Like what was that like?
No, it was my father. My father spent 27 years in the army, so he was known as a career soldier, and I am so grateful, so thankful that he chose to take his family to Germany as many times as he did. At first, we thought it was a hassle. We felt we were being deprived because we have to go to Germany again, but it actually was a blessing in disguise because it made I think it helped shape me culturally, made me more culturally aware, culturally inclusive, because the community that we lived in, we had people from all shades, all sizes, all colors, from the South, from the North, you name it. But we were all Americans, all of us Americans growing up in this, what we refer to as a foreign country. We had to lean on each other for support, and we grew together. And so it just kind of opened my eyes broadly in terms of people. And I'm just grateful and I feel blessed that we had this opportunity to experience this.
Oh, that sounds really interesting, man. And when you're there, are all of you trying to also kind of take in that German culture? Like, are you learning the German language? Like, how's that experience?
Yes, for the most part, we all, I think, at least I'm speaking for me and my family, we felt that it was important for us to learn the language. It was a difficult language for me, to be quite honest. Um, but we were not really dependent on knowing the language because we always had bilingual friends. One of my good friends was an American. His mother was German. His father was a soldier, and he spoke fluent German as well as fluent English. And whenever we found ourselves in a position where we had to travel too deep into the community is what we would call, the German community. When we were away from the base, where it's all German speaking, when we felt that we were in a situation where language was a barrier, we would always take one of our bilingual friends. And we also have befriended a German kid over there who was probably one of the only German kids that I know of that kind of, we took him under our wings, so to speak. And, he English was a second language for him. So all of his English experience was coming from us. We were his peer group. And by the same token, he helped us with any German translations that we needed. So I felt it was important to learn the language. I attempted to take German when I think I was in seventh grade or eighth grade. And I think that lasted 1 month in that class before I found out it was just something uh, I could not, wrap my arms around at that time. It was just too difficult.
What about were there any like unique things about the German culture that stood out to you versus American culture?
I'm not really sure that anything kind of took us by surprise, so to speak, or that was really odd or different from what we experienced. I think just the whole experience with the food, just the day to day life of how they do things. It's a lot similar to how we do things, but then again, it's pretty unique. Everybody has their own way of doing things, And I'm sure that on the other hand, we definitely gave them some culture. For instance, a simple thing like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Hmm.
My friend, the German friend I was telling you about, he had never. I don't think he'd ever experienced a peanut butter and jelly sandwich until he had one at the house of a friend of mine, and same with Kool-Aid. It was something that was kind of foreign to them. But then, by the same token, some of the things that I found unique in terms of the food was the bratwurst, which I grew up on bratwurst and Wiener Schnitzel. This became this is like my main staple in terms of German food.
Hmm.
And some of the other cultural things that, I mean, no one does Christmas the way Germany does
Okay.
in terms of the lights, everything festive about Christmas. The Christkino market is one thing that stands out in my mind, which is basically the Christmas market. And it normally starts, I think, toward the end of November all the way through December. And if you're into Christmas and the festivities, it's just, I mean, everything from the gingerbread to you name it. It's just an awesome thing. And then, of course, the snow. It was just all an amazing experience for me being a little black kid from the South, being able to experience that. It was very enriching for me.
That sounds awesome, man. That's really cool. Okay, so what about when you're there, and you said you were there until you were about 15?
Yeah, I left. I left for good. I mean, for my last time as living there was when I was 15. I had just turned 15, and I was starting into high school at that point in the 10th grade. Yeah, that was the last time I lived there.
So in those initial like first 15 years of your life, and it sounds like most of it was in Germany. What was it like musically? Like, because I know that you're, you know a huge musical act, man. Like people love your music. So when did that music kind of start coming into your life? Like, did it come through the bass? Did some of that German music kind of seep through? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Music, we had what was originally called the AYA, which stands for American Youth Association, and then they changed the name to DYA, which stood for Dependent Youth Association. And basically, this was a teen center for the youth.
Okay.
for what they call the dependents. For all the kids of service members, they have to have moral support programs for them. So we had sports, we had arts, we took karate. They'd have dances at teen center, and then they'd have all area dances where they invite other kids, Americans from other bases like Bamberg or Erlangen or Stuttgart. All of us we had all this thing in common, and so they had these services for everyone. And of course, music back then. I mean, I grew up on funk. My love for music came before hip hop and rap, as we know it. I mean, my mother, she had a lot of the old Motown records and Checker records and just different, singers from their era. And the music was always playing around the house, and we always loved it. I mean, we had a small toy organ and, guitar and different things that we could not play, but we had them laying around and we bang on them and make our own form of music with them. Growing up on funk, James Brown, the Jacksons were really big. And another thing is that Germany would get the music after it was already out in the US. So we tended to get music a little bit later. The only time we got music right away was when an American kid who was living in America first moved to Germany. A lot of times they would come with the latest trends from America. And sometimes it's the new music. Sometimes it's the new sneakers. Sometimes it's the new dance. And so we were always exchanging ideas with each other. And once again, it depended on where you're from in America. The kids from California or the kids from Mississippi or the kids from North Carolina or the kids from New York. Everybody had a different story to tell and a different style to share. As I got older, I started purchasing records when 45s that was the format, buying a record on a 45, and I remember going to the PX, which stands for Post Exchange. That was kind of like our general department store. They sold everything from clothes to records to household supplies and different things. And, you can go there and buy just about anything you could buy at a JCPenney's or a Walmart or anything at the store. And I used to go there and buy records. Every time a hot record was out, I would buy it because I didn't know at the time that I would become a performing artist, but I did know that I loved that genre or that music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, do you remember the first time that you got introduced to hip hop?
Actually, I do. I can almost remember to the date, actually.
Okay.
And I was in high school in North Carolina at the time. And I'm going to give a little music trivia, a little music history for some of the listeners who may not know.
All right.
I had a debate with some younger rappers about this topic a few years back. Here's the deal. When I was in high school, there was a record that came out, which was the first commercially recorded rap record as we know it. This was what started rap, that whole name rap, and it turned into hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
There was a group called the Fatback Band, and they had a rapper, King Tim the Third, as he called himself. And the name of the song was King Tim the Third. Now, Fatback Band is a huge funk band. I think they're from New York, somewhere up in that area. But I know this record came out, and I purchased the record the day it came out, and I loved this record. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool right here. I mean, I grew up on Dr. Seuss and Mother Goose. Those were like the books, and I just loved something about this rhyming, and I just thought it was clever. So, I mean, those were some of my favorite books growing up. And now I'm in high school, and this rap comes out, and this guy's rhyming, and he's telling stories, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I bought this record. Probably 6 months later is when Sugar Hill Gang came out with Rapper's Delight, and I bought that record. And I remember hearing the DJ for the first time mix, and I think he was mixing a James Brown with something else, and he had it looping, and you think you know the lyrics, and it went to a beat and everything, and I was like, man, this is cool. So I'm up there now, ear hustling, watching this DJ, like, what the heck is he doing? How is he doing that? This is cool. So I fell in love with it. I knew the whole rap to Rapper's Delight, knew King Tim the Third, and then Spoonie G came out, and then there was the Treacherous Three, and the Crash Crew, and Grandmaster Flash. It was like all these groups are coming out of New York. I was purchasing all these records and trying to emulate this rap, remember some of the things of it. 3 years, 4 years go by, and the first time I was in a club, I actually did my version of a rap, and it was actually quite powerful. It was pretty fun because you can say something and the crowd will respond back. And you say, say ho, and everybody would say ho, and you say scream, and everybody screamed. And I was like, dang, this is pretty good. This is powerful.
That's
And
awesome.
I, yeah, I think that was the point where I got bit by the bug and saying, you know what, I want to write these ideas down and be able to communicate a message with the music as a backbeat.
So when you hopped on stage right there that time in that club, did you already have something written, or you were you just kind of freestyling off the top? Like how did you approach that?
I, yeah, I was kind of freestyling. And I think I was emulating some of the stuff that I heard from New York. Like where the party people at? Throw your hands up, come on! And then I was just kind of instructing people of what to do. And the only reason I did that was because my buddy, I used to always hang out with the DJs. I think I really wanted to be a DJ, so
Okay.
I'd hang out with DJs. I just thought it was magical about how they can move a crowd and change the tone level of a club just by the songs they play, how they could speed it up, slow it down, throw on a romance song for the couples, and then kick it back to the dance floor going berserk. So I'd always hang out with the DJ, and and I had one buddy, DJ Magic. He used to, and this was when I was in Oklahoma at this time because my dad was stationed there. So I went out there and lived there for a minute. And I remember he'd have a microphone, but he never really spoke on the mic. He'd always just do the turntables, and the mic was just there. So I was like, "Hey, bro, can I say something on the mic?" He was like, "Sure." He turned the mic on, plug it in, turn it on. I tell him throw on instrumental of Friends or something like that, and he throw the instrumental, and I just kind of start freestyling. And then I said, you know what, I want to be more professional. I need to write my ideas down so that uh, they go together, so it makes sense. So I would just trying to structure songs. So that's when I started writing, and the first song that I wrote was a song called Freedom, and Freedom, a message to the world, and it was basically inspired by one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it spoke to freedom, peace, and unity, and spoke against racism and suppression. And that was my first recording. And that's now 30 some odd years ago.
That's awesome, man. That's a really cool first song to have written with the title Freedom and to be about that. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I've always wanted to. I always knew the power of music, and I learned years later that music is the most influential. Rap music is the most influential art form of our time, and I always guessed that it bridged gaps. But I had only lived in Germany as far as other countries. I hadn't visited other countries before. But just in the past 7 or 8 years, I've been to 25 different countries, and one thing in common is they do appreciate rap music, and it's popular in every country I've been to, whether it was Asia, Russia, Israel. It didn't matter. Rap was there. Hip hop was there. It makes me feel good to know that I'm a part of that life, even before rap was known as hip hop.
No, I mean that's incredible, man. I can imagine like when you're first on that mic in North Carolina in that club, and you get on the mic. That might have been the first time anybody heard anybody rap in like live, right? When you're in that club.
Yeah, well, there it was. Of course, New York is where it all began, and I'm sure New Yorkers there were rappers at the parks and the block parties and so forth. But in the area that I lived at that time, I'm not sure if there was anybody that even aspired to do it at that time. I don't know what made me go and think I was going to do it, because I was actually I did a little pop locking back in the day, little. I didn't do the breakdance stuff, but I was into the moon walking and just kind of like the pop lock thing. I was a part of a crew, but one day I just thought, I'm going to get on the mic and just see if I could do it, and I had to get rid of that nervous jitter thing, and I guess to break the ice just to see if I could even do it. And then from that, it just led me to believe that was my destiny.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And so when this is happening, when you're first getting on the mic, is are you still in high school? Or are you past high school? Like how old are you when this is happening?
Well, the first time on the mic was high school, but that was only because I guess it was like a contest to see who knew all the lyrics to Rapper's Delight. So basically, I was reciting Rapper's Delight to the instrumental. And then after high school, right after high school, I went in the Army. I got stationed in Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, Texas. And I got stationed there. And around that time frame is when I really like started peeping the music industry out and finding out how could I become a part of this music industry. And so I did a little rap things, just the instrumentals at clubs, just to kind of get the party going a little. And then from there, I took a basketball scholarship. So I went to college out in East Texas where I was on basketball scholarship. And that at that point is when I really got into it, started rapping, started writing down some ideas on paper, not really knowing how to structure it, but I was just writing my ideas down. And I was performing at parties there, dances there, saying my little rhymes or whatever. Wasn't, to me, I didn't think it was a big deal. It was just something fun to do and challenging. One day I was a part of a contest to represent our school. I was the only rapper. And even though I didn't win, I placed in the top 3. But the point is that it opened my eyes and opened my mind to say, wow, just imagine with a little bit more experience what I could do, because I have a lot to say. I have a lot that I see going on in the world that I want to be able to address. It's just that how can I do that using music? So it was 1985. I played a character, Nat Turner, in a play that called Judgment of the Troublemakers. I had never acted in any theater or anything before. I just did it because a friend of mine wrote the play, and he asked me to play the part of Nat Turner. And I wasn't as sharp on my Black history, and so I didn't know who Nat Turner was. And after he explained to me, I went and did the role. Now, the punchline to that is that James Earl Jones, the James Earl Jones, was in the front row critiquing this play.
Oh, wow.
And after the play ended, he came backstage and sought me out. Out of all the drama majors and everybody that were on that stage, he asked for Nat Turner, which was the character I played. And he gave me the hugest vote of confidence. He asked me if I was a drama major, and I said, no, sir. And he said, what's your major? And I said, I'm undecided. I'm on a basketball scholarship, and I don't really know. And he told me, you should pursue the arts. He said, you have great stage presence. You stayed in character the entire time, and you have a great speaking voice. You should pursue the arts. This is from Mr. James Earl Jones.
Wow.
In 1985. And it was 2 months later. That's when I came to California to pursue the arts, and I've been here ever since.
That is incredible, man. That's that's awesome.
Yeah, I would love to run into him again. I would love to run into Mr. Jones again, especially in a new unit of time. But I did have an opportunity to meet him in Berkeley, California, back in the mid '90s, and he was there on a book tour. And I went there, recollected his memory to the date. He was just so excited that I remembered, but how could I forget, And he remembered, so I think I was equally excited that he remembered that moment. But I thanked him then, and I told him that it was that conversation that led me to California, and it's that conversation with Mr. Jones that puts me where I'm at today in 2017 as we speak. So I give a lot of props to James Earl Jones, who I regard as a mentor and one of the most prolific voiceover artists of all times.
That's awesome, man. And you know what's really cool about that is that it wasn't even something that you had planned, right? Like you were just helping out a friend that had that play going on, right? And you were
Absolutely.
yeah, and your willingness to just kind of jump in and want to participate and want to just kind of do that led you to something that you wouldn't have ever expected could have possibly happened from something like that.
That's absolutely true. It was not on my radar at all. I did have, my plan was I was going to play basketball at the highest level. I was going to be in the NBA or play in Europe. I had all these ideas of things that I was going to do, that I thought I was on that path. But man, just out of left field, one door opens, another door opens, and you never know what life has in store. Just got to really follow that path and be aware when doors are opening, and be willing, and more than anything is to be flexible enough to make that move. It was a huge move, but I think it was very rewarding, and I'm glad that I was able to do that.
So when you get to California, what was your plan? I mean, did you know anybody out there? Did you have like some money saved up? Like how do you just suddenly get
Uh,
yourself over there?
that's funny you asked that because yeah, I came to California. I think I had about $20 in my pocket. But the best thing was that my uncle lived here, and at the time, he was the only person I knew in all of California. And I told him that I wanted to come to California. I was tired of Texas. I wanted to come for the summer, and he says, "Well, if you want to come, I'll fly you out." And he said, you can come for the summer, and if you want, you can go back to college, in the fall if you didn't like it here. So I came out for the summer, stayed with him. I got a job, was working. That's when I got more into music. That I was in California probably 2 months when I did my first, I guess you can call professional show. That was the first show, the first time that I ever rapped and actually got paid for doing it, even though it wasn't any money. It was still for me to see any finances for doing that. For me, I was excited, and not to mention that I was opening for Egyptian Lover, who was very big. Uh, I guess you would call him electro rap dance on the dance scene. I mean, he was killing the dance market during this time, and he had a big record out called Egypt. Egypt.
Mhm.
He's an LA based rap artist, one of the pioneers of the West Coast. And I had an opportunity to open for him on my very first show, and I was in California probably not even 2 months. So I came out swinging hard. Uh,
And how did you
I
get that? Like how did you go about getting that gig?
See, I got a crazy style of doing things, and I mean, I knew that he was going to be in the town that I was in. I knew that his record was really big when I was living in Texas. In college, he had a huge record. And I said, this guy's coming to town. Where he was playing at was 5 minutes from where I was living.
Mhm.
And I heard it on the radio station. So I rounded up two other guys. I said, we got to get this rap group together. So I went around town to find any and all rappers. Where are the rappers at? One of the guys that lived in my complex introduced me to two other kids that were in high school. And they were the only rappers or only people in that town that was even attempting to rap. And me being new in this area, so I rounded these guys up and I says, "Hey guys, you want to open for Egyptian Lover?" And there was a lot of non-believers, and sometimes you run into non-believers, and that's one thing I tell anybody that's listening, no matter if you're an artist or an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever, believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself relentlessly. And so I told these guys, I says, "Hey, we're gonna open for Egyptian Lover," and they're like, "Bro, that'll never happen. How are you going to open for Egyptian Lover?" And I said, "We're going to go into the radio station and tell them we want to open." And that's what we did. We went to the radio station. And we told them that we want to open. And they said, "Can you rap?" And I said, "Sure." The guy says, "Let me hear you." So we all did a little verse then. And I look back at it right now. It was so freshman, junior high rap at that time. But hey, that was what we were. And we did our little rap. And the guy says, "Okay, good. You're open." And we did. We opened for Egyptian Lover.
Oh, I
And
love that, man. That's awesome.
then it came around when Dr. Dre and the World Class Wrecking Crew, which, I'm dating my uh, history in the rap industry. Dr. Dre and World Class Wrecking Crew. Everybody knows Dr. Dre. Everybody knows Dr. Dre, but they may not know that he was with a group called World Class Wrecking Crew. This group is the same group that actually founded Eazy-E and NWA. But I opened for them when they were Dr. Dre and the World Class Wrecking Crew. They had Rodney and Joe Cooley, which are another big group. All these groups out of LA.
Mhm.
And then about a year or two later, they came back with NWA. This is NWA when they first came out. And we had an opportunity to open for NWA, Eazy-E, and those guys. And those were like the first three shows that I did. To me, now when I look back, it was kind of big for me, especially being a small boy from a small town trying to do good. I just felt real honored to have that experience.
I noticed you said we. Like, did you have like a crew with you? Like, did you have like a
Yeah,
hype
I,
man? Like, who was with you?
I put together a crew. It was a guy named Chad. One guy was Chad. The other one's name is Rich. Black kid and a white kid. That was very unique at that time. That was before third base and all this other stuff like this. And so you had this white kid who called himself D the White Knight. You know, he's a cool youngster, and his rap partner was Chad, and they were kind of like a Run DMC. They were influenced by Run DMC, so they were a duo that did the raps where they, you know, switched the words back and forth to each other. One person would start a sentence, and the other person would end it. Another person would jump in and say one word, and the other guy would say another word. They had this syncopation, synchronized thing down. So I met these guys, and we couldn't think of a name for the group because my crew that I had put together before California, we were called Mossy Posse. And we had a guy, a beatbox, who called himself the Human Radio. We had another beatbox in the group that called himself DMX. And we didn't have drum machines, so we had to go with beatboxers, you know? Mm-hmm. So I couldn't call my group Mossy Posse because they, of course, weren't Mossy Posse. And they had another group name that they didn't want to use as a group. So we formed a group called Chill E.B and the Posse. And it was me, Chad, and Rich. After a few years, everybody kind of went their separate ways, and I just pursued my dream. And, you know, the other guys went their direction. We stayed in touch. We've done shows where they actually came and was a part of my show, but I just kind of kept my thing moving. And like I said, I was just being relentless and just had a drive that was, you know, determination, you know, and nonstop.
And what in this period, like what are the songs about? Like what's the message? Because I know that, you know, you started off right off the bat with trying to, you know, do something for mankind. Did you kind of continue that? Like what were the songs about?
Okay, well, Freedom. I wrote Freedom in honor of Martin Luther King's dream, and we recorded as a group. We thought it would be awesome that we had an interracial group. We were talking about freedom, peace, and unity for all. And, you know, one of my mantras, which I use to this very day, is there's only one race, peace to the human race. And we wanted to exemplify that using music to be able to show that music is a universal language that we all understand and we all comprehend it. And so that was the first song. And then after we recorded this song, we had a lot of other songs planned to record. And my influence was the East Coast rappers. You know, they had the mid-tempo, the downbeats, and I really liked this whole thing about it. And one of my buddies from California who was kind of like a fan of ours, he used to hang around with us all the time and, you know, kind of pump us up and everything. And he goes, man, you should do something fast for the dance floor. Chill, you can't rap fast, though, can you? And it was kind of like a challenge. He told me that I couldn't rap fast. And, you know, I hear your stuff, man. You can't rap fast. And so I was like, what? Oh, okay. I accept the challenge. So I did a song called Dog Down, which is like 128 beats a minute. And it was me, Chad, and Rich. And it was just a party song, man. It was a party song hyping up a dance, which was a variation of the dog, the atomic dog. We called it Dog Down. And it was kind of like, I tell people, depends on what kind of dog you are. Depends if it's risque or not. Some people thought it was risque, but it had a dual meaning to it, you know. And Dog Down was just an up-tempo party jam, a lot of rhymes, a lot of beat. And we did this song and it blew everybody away. And actually this song, we didn't have any records in the store and they already had our song in the mix on the radio and we had no records in the store. It was just something that took legs and kind of went from under us, you know. So that was my second song. It's actually the flip side of Freedom. And it's actually the B side. Freedom was supposed to be the A side, but Dog Down was the B side that, you know, made it to the mix shows. And then after that, I did a song called Confusion. And Confusion was a very socially aware song. Basically, I call it a news, a preview of the news. It's basically things that are going on in the world that everyone can relate to, and it affects every one of us, regardless of where we're from, regardless of what we believe in. And Confusion spoke to issues that were going on in society. And then after Confusion, I did a song called Menace to Society, which predates the movie. I have to be clear and honest about it, is that my video and my song came before the movie.
Oh, wow.
And it's my belief, and the belief of everyone that knows me, journalists, fans, other musicians that know my history, believe that my video inspired the movie. And if you've seen the movie and you see my video, I'm sure that everyone would agree that there's a lot of similarities there to the music. And to me, I was flattered. But you know, we had that video on BET. It was on rotation. I think I was the only, at least I was told I was the only artist that was not signed on the label to have a video on heavy rotation on Rap City.
Oh wow.
So
So you're doing this like all just like independent.
yeah, it was all independent, and it was all independent. I mean, I had a sponsor, a person who actually financed my studio time and the product, and but we didn't have a distribution deal or anything like that. We had to do our stuff independent.
Now the sponsor, is this just somebody that believed in what you were doing and wanted to help you out, or was it more of like an investment?
No, it was kind of an investment at the same time. I mean, it was somebody who believed in what we did, local guy who believed in what we did, and wanted to help, wanted to be a part of what was happening. And, he was financially healthy, to where he could, get us in the studio and make the moves that we thought needed to be made at the time. And on the flip side, my loyalty, I have a high, loyalty. I just said, hey, you know what? If we can make something happen out of this, then of course I want to give you some kickback. I want you to be a part because you were the one that helped out at the beginning. And so that was kind of the deal that we had. So we kind of created our own label, although we weren't really viable. We were just more label on paper, and we did some good product. We did have some good product out, but we didn't pursue it as a independent record label probably would have or should have. We had a lot of experiences, man, and we kicked down a lot of doors and busted through a lot of walls. For somebody who, the whole crew, none of us had any experience in this. None of us had anybody in the industry who can kind of pull you by the hand. I mean, you'll get a guy like, you get some of the big names out there. You name them. Eminem. I mean, he had Dre. Tupac and Digital Underground. It was always, in most cases, it was always somebody connected who would bring in somebody. But we didn't have any. But we didn't have any connections whatsoever. We were kind of outsiders the whole time. I still feel that way to this very day because, there's no big producer, big money, big company, big record label, or anybody that's pushing what I'm doing. But it doesn't stop me. I push myself. So, I feel blessed to be able to do it.
We'll be right back to our interview in a minute, but first a quick message from our sponsor. Art Planet is a company I founded with the purpose of inspiring and empowering artists everywhere. At Art Planet, we make and sell products that are not only colorful and creative, but also fuel a movement towards combating the destruction of the world by focusing on the creation of a better one. Your purchases make this show and much more possible. Visit artplanet.co, that's artplanet.co, and explore our many products including clothing, creative tools, and artist resources. Use the code PODCAST at checkout and receive 20% off your first order. Thanks for your support. Now back to our interview.
I remember that I was doing my hiatus, and I remember meeting this guy, and someone says, "Oh yeah, this is Chill E.B." He goes, "Oh yeah, Chill E.B." And he says, "So are you a rapper or something?" And I said, "Well, I used to be. I mean, I do a little something." He goes, "Yeah, what's your name?" And I said, "Chill E.B." And he goes, "Chill E.B." He goes, "No, I never heard of you." I said, "Really?" I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 19." I said, "Well, that's the reason you never heard of me, because I was doing my thing before you was even born, And so I started talking to these guys and telling them that it's not going to be a Dre, Jay-Z, name any of these guys. They're not going to walk down the street here and go, 'Hey, I'm going to put you on the map.'" And I used to tell my crew, the guys in my crew, I said, "Hey guys, we got to go out. We got to be hungry. We got to go into San Francisco. We got to go into Oakland. We got to go where the action is, because out here in the suburbs, it's not like Barry Gordy or one of these big producers are going to come all the way out here on our block and put us on. We got to make it happen ourselves. And there's been a lot of doors that close in your face, and it's times when you want to just really think that you don't really have what it takes. But like I said, you got to believe. That's where the belief in yourself comes in. And even now, when I'm doing what I'm doing now, a lot of times back in the day, we used to rely on radio stations. At least I did. It was kind of like, oh man, we got to get the radio to play this. If the radio can play it, everybody can hear it. It'll go big really quick. So let's do something and get it to the radio. Meanwhile, the radio station has a big chain on the door keeping you out. And this time around, I said, you know what? The hell with radio. I'm not even codepending on radio. I'm not even thinking about radio in that sense. I mean, sure, if we have something that the radio could play and they would like to play it, that's fine. We would appreciate the support. But I'm not banking my success as a failure on if the radio station plays my song or if the record label, if I send my stuff to a label and they give me a deal, and if they don't give me a deal, then I'm not going to make it. All those viewpoints of mine have changed completely 180 degrees. And that's why I just stay in my lane. I do my thing. And I know you're going to ask this a little bit later on, but I'm going to preempt it now, is that for anybody out there, the ingredients that I use is persistence and consistent. Be persistent and be consistent with whatever you do, and be prepared more than anything. There's been so many doors that open for me because of preparation. I happen to have something to present, and I'm in a situation where somebody needs somebody to fill a slot desperately, and it was like, oh, well, I could go on, and I can go on and take up 5 or 6 minutes, and it's like, okay, good, and I go in and save the day for a promoter or somebody doing something that I wasn't even on the bill to do, but it's just that I was prepared, you know, and that's something I try to pay forward to all the other artists, especially the younger artists out there. Is believe in yourself, man. Think big, and be prepared, be persistent, be consistent. It's simple stuff.
I think that's super important, man. That's like really some super great advice because I know so many artists. I mean, especially rappers as well, that they have this mentality that they, like I said earlier, they just want to wait around and they want it to be sort of like this cakewalk, this easy like thing, and for anybody that gets into hip hop or rap and they think that's like an easy job. I mean,
Yeah,
you really have to like be in it. And I know from personal experience, as you know, that from my story, like I remember starting to record hip hop music with my brother, also in California, and we didn't know anybody, and we didn't know, there was nobody around in our area that we could go to for that mentorship or whatever, and we just took our music, and that in itself was a scary thing, just putting yourself out there. But we took our music and
yeah,
we would knock on doors and we, get the headphones out and say, "Hey, listen to our stuff," um,
yeah.
and it takes
That's the
that.
way you got to do it.
It is, you have to knock down the door yourself. You have to go out there and definitely be persistent. And I think that that's the winning formula for pretty much anything, but especially for an artist, because I think that it's such a fragile thing. Like you're basically making something that has never existed before. You're communicating something that might be totally new. I mean, especially hip hop, like at the time period when you're first getting into it, it's like this new art form, and you just have to be willing to just continue and push through and keep going and keep creating.
Yeah, yeah. There's sometimes when your belief in yourself carries you through, and because you're going to run up against all types of obstacles, and you're going to run into naysayers, and just people. And some people have the best interest in mind. It's just that they don't really believe that you can do what they would consider to be impossible. I've done enough things that were supposedly impossible to where my confidence level went up to say I could do anything. And at any given moment, you know, anything can happen, especially if you've already done the right thing long enough.
Where do you think that you kind of developed that, or you got that ability to do the impossible, or to think that you could do the impossible, that helped to build that confidence? Because I know that a lot of artists struggle with that, like having the confidence to feel that they're, number one, that they're good enough, and number two, that they can continue to communicate to people about what they're making. So was there something maybe early in life? Was it something that came from family, or an icon that you admired? Like what gave you that feeling that you could attempt to do any of this?
I think that comes from non-believers. I always took it as a challenge. I think it also comes from, it's a combination of people who don't really believe you can do what you think you can do, and so it becomes kind of a challenge. And being an ex-athlete, I was very competitive in basketball, and that type of challenge. I like to take on that type of challenge, and I think it comes partly too from failures, from not succeeding in certain areas, and then being super duper determined to learn from your mistakes. And then I think the third part of it is from the first time that you accomplish something that is impossible, that no one thought you would be able to do, and they still scratch their head to find out how you did it. But once you've done it that one time, it becomes like an addiction. And it's like a power, it's like a power that you get, that you tell yourself that, you know what, you can do this. Because if you're not able to tell yourself you can do this, it might not be anybody else that's going to tell you you can do it. So you got to tell yourself that all the time you can do it. And I think it just comes with an a gradient. You know, the first time you were successful, then you success leads to more success, and then you know you get accustomed to doing things in a way that your just determination level is extremely high, and you're able to overcome barriers, and you're able to open up doors, sometimes your own doors, and sometimes other people have doors that are just there, a little bit open, and you just kind of sneak your way in. You know, so I think all in all, though, it just comes from just being resilient and learning from mistakes in the past.
Right. So basically, like when you get knocked down or you have that first failure or, you know, it didn't go the way that you wanted or whatever initially, you just have to get back up and you just have to keep going, right?
Yep, readjust. You make readjustments in the game plan. You know, stick to your plan. Make a readjustment, get back up, and just figure, you know what? That's just a minor setback. You know, I'll take one step backwards, just take two or three steps forward. So, you know, it's just all a part of life.
What do you think is like has been the biggest challenge that you faced along the way?
I think for me, it's just wanting to do more, feeling a need to do more. I don't really, I can't really put a finger on anything that I've experienced, especially as recently, that is a super duper challenge for me. But I think that I challenge myself to do more. I challenge myself to be better. Um, I challenge myself to be more, and so that's pretty much it. And also, I got to give you some backstory, which is something I didn't mention, which will kind of probably open up another line of questioning, but at the same
Sure.
time, it would get fill in some gaps.
Okay.
I basically retired. I called it a retire from rap, but I took a hiatus. I quit basically back in 1993, and I was really kind of tired of this pursuit. And at the time, I had three boys, and my boys were toddlers, and you know I was spending time in studios and trying to make this hustle work. And I found out that it's impossible to do alone. I guess that just made me think too, is that another challenge is to find someone with your work ethic and to find someone who believes in your dream just as much as you believe in your dream.
Oh yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest challenges, but I can't, it just clicked out of nowhere. Yeah, I had walked away from it because I was tired of, I was getting a little frustrated with the music stuff. A lot of things were going on around me, and some things that were out of my control, but they basically controlled me. I just said, you know what? I'm done. I'm putting the brakes on this. I'm just going to be a father. I'm going to be a normal person, just working a normal job. Chill E.B is done. I don't care about being Chill E.B anymore. I'm just done with this. You know, I want to just raise my kids and just do that. So I did that, and it was about 16 years since I recorded a song, until 2010 when we did Y'all Busted. That was like the reintroduction song, you know, and then I just started, you know, creating stuff from that.
So
But I
tell
just want,
yeah, tell me about that because I think that that's really interesting though. Like because you wrote that because of your experience with the school system, right? And something that happened with your I think it was with your son.
yeah. So what happened was that my son, when he was 15, my youngest son, when he was 15, you know, he was struggling in school, and we were trying to find a solution. I was trying to find out why he's struggling. His other two brothers, they're doing all right. I know everybody's different, and especially children, you know. But I was just wondering, how is he so far off the path of what he needs to be on academically? What is the problem? So we did everything from having him in a tutoring service. I think it was like 500, 600, 700 bucks a month, whatever they were charging us every day of the week. You're dropping them in after school. They're supposed to help them, learn how to study, get his grades up or whatever. And it didn't work. It was kind of like throwing money into a hole. So I said, okay, maybe if we put him in Saturday school, I thought the threat of going to school on Saturday will make him do better.
Okay.
So he went to Saturday school, didn't work, had no effect on his grade. So I decided, you know what? The best way to know what the hell's going on is if I go to the school myself. I mean, I was an on-campus dad. I was always on campus. I was always active in my kids, their daily, day-to-day life, And so I popped up on the school and started going to his classes. I went to class with him for about a week and a half,
Okay.
and thinking that if I go to class with him, he'll do better because he thinks that I'm going to be watching, so he'll do better. And eventually, we found out that really didn't work. So the school asked me if I ever had him tested. When they said that, I was a little offended because from the times that I wasn't doing rap music, I was working with youth, and I saw a lot of kids that were taking medication for ADHD and so forth. And I always thought ADHD was not real. I thought ADHD was a name that they give kids for whatever reason or another, and because I couldn't think of any kids growing up that I knew had ADHD. There was no such thing. So I always thought that ADHD, and I even went as far as say ADHD is a hoax. I don't think it's real. I think it's something that somebody's making up for whatever reason, and I had no idea at the time, like I do now. So when they asked me to have my son tested, of course I became offended, and I said, tested for what? And they said, for any learning disabilities or something. He could have a learning disability. And I said, my son has no learning disability, but I will have him tested if that's going to help. The test was a subjective questionnaire, which I told my son's mom that they're going to say he has ADHD. And she asked me what makes me think that. And I said, because I noticed that like 60-70% of the kids in the school that I worked at have ADHD. I think that that's something they're doing is prescribing kids, diagnosing them ADHD. Sure enough, after 2 visits, they told me that my son is a classic case of ADHD. And they gave me a prescription with 5 drugs and told us, yeah, that's what I said. Wow. And I said, first of all, why so many drugs? Number one. Number two, how much is this going to cost? And number 3 is, what are these going to do? What are the effects of this? The doctor said, no, you pick one. You don't give them all 5. You choose whichever one of those 5 you want to give your son, and you give it to him for 3 weeks, and then you bring your son back, and we reevaluate him and see how he's doing. And I said to myself, now something doesn't sound right. For me to pick one of these drugs to give my son, whichever one I want, I don't want to give him any of them. So as it turned out, I didn't give him any drugs. I took him in to see his pediatrician a month later with no drugs, no diet change, nothing changed in his life. I took him to see his pediatrician, and I asked his pediatrician if he can explain to me how my son has ADHD, and he told me completely the opposite of what the other doctor told me. He says, your son does not have ADHD. He's an adolescent 15-year-old boy. Whatever he's going through, he will grow out of. And he said, do not give your son these drugs. He was actually offended and upset that I was told to give this to my son. So at that point is when I knew that there was a problem, because 1 month earlier, my son was diagnosed ADHD. And 1 month later, with no adjustments and no drugs, he no longer had ADHD. I started wondering, is it possible that these other kids don't really have ADHD either, and that the parents are being lied to? So I started my investigation into this. My investigation led me to the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, and they had a lot of things that confirmed my suspicions. And that, at that point, is when I said, you know what, I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something now. Don't know quite what I'm going to do, because at that point, I had been out of the music industry since 1993. And I said, I need to do something. I need to say something. I don't know quite how I'm going to do it, but I know it needs to be done. And so we recorded Y'all Busted, and we shot a video for Y'all Busted, all independent with no budget, I must say. So I was happy. That was one of the impossible things that we were able to do. And we made a quality song with a good purpose and a great awareness message. That my idea was to hopefully raise the awareness of anyone who listened, to be supportive of the parents and the kids, to say, hey, look into this a little closer and find out what the truth really is, and be able to make an informed decision on someone that you love, because these drugs do kill people, and they have known to cause violence. They have known to cause a lot more problems than they solved. And so that was what reintroduced me back to music. And since then, I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it forever.
That's awesome, man. And I couldn't agree with you more. It's really horrific and criminal what's going on with all of that. What I also think is really cool that you're telling me here is that you're almost like taking up this cause and putting people's attention on this issue at a time when there's nobody else that's really doing that in mainstream music or hip hop that I can think of. And it's almost like you're kind of doing this groundbreaking thing by talking about it. And since you started bringing this up in your music, I think we've also seen guys like Macklemore and others that are starting to talk about this.
And sure, and that's a great observation too, because I knew at the time when I decided this is what I was going to do, I had other choices. I could have went with the standard braggadocio rap, could do the party rap. I could do a little bit more aggressive, but just with a message type of stuff. But I said there's nobody in this lane. There's nobody. I was thinking there's nobody that's willing, because it's easy to rap about superficial things that we rappers, my counterparts, are known to rap about. It's easy to rap about, you know, um, the violent culture and a violent way of life. And I mean, it's really easy to just rap about nonsense. But no one is picking this up because maybe it's not cool. Maybe it's not cool enough. Maybe it's not the thing in the rap industry that's making money for whatever reason. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else. I can just say that I felt that nobody was picking this up, and somebody has to do it. And if I have a route that I have to take, I might as well elect myself to do it. It's not going to be an easy thing to go, because it's not going to be popular with some people. I already expected that, anticipated that everyone's not going to agree. I've had more people to agree than I had that disagree. And what I say to the people that disagree is, I want you to disagree with me. I don't want you to believe what I'm saying. I know it sounds weird, but I tell them, disagree with me, but go and search for yourself. Once you go search for yourself and then you find out, then you can make a decision. But what I'm telling you is what happened to me and what almost happened to my family, which is the truth of what I shared earlier. What I'm telling you is that there are millions of kids who are being unnecessarily drugged. And I'm also telling you that these drugs have horrendous side effects. I mean, I Googled the drugs that they told me to give my son, and they all had a couple of side effects in common. One in common was suicidal ideologies, aggression, depression. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. If your child is not already suicidal, if you give him these drugs, he will become suicidal. If your child is not already depressed and you give him these drugs, they will become depressed. So I'm wondering, why would I give my son this poison when it tells you one of the side effects is that it could cause sudden death? He could take it one pill one time and cause sudden death. It's like, you know what? I'll take my chance in the long shot before I give him these pills. That's like playing Russian roulette. As it turned out, my son graduated. My son, as a father, is an awesome father. He's being productive. He's healthy, never been drugged. And I'm happy that I was stubborn, hard headed, that I was not going to do this. But I feel an obligation that I have to speak out for the other parents who have lost their children
Yeah.
because of this. I have to speak out for the voiceless, for the kids and the parents who don't feel they have a voice or don't feel that they have enough courage to stand up to confront this. And so I feel like I was pre selected and elected that I have to do this because nobody else is doing it. And nobody that I see in the rap community is willing to do it. Maybe it's a long shot, it's a long road. Maybe it's not as popular with the rap industry because you're not rapping about watches and money and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really know, and I don't intend to judge anybody. But I just stay in my lane, man, and I just address this truth because it is pandemic. It's actually altering the future of our society by drugging our society's most valuable resources.
Well, man, I have to acknowledge you and just thank you for the work that you're doing because I think you're really the embodiment of in my perspective, what an artist needs to be in society is this person that will cause change and discuss and bring up and point people's attention and sort of get people to change what may be going on in the world. And by you bringing these things up, I think it's super important because, like, even art aside, it's just a brave thing to do, to stand up to the pharmaceutical industry and the makers of these drugs and the people that are pushing these drugs on people. um, it's not an easy thing to do, because you do put yourself at risk, because these are the same guys that spend millions of dollars attacking um, anybody that tries to cut their bottom line and cut their profits, and I think that that
Yeah.
should be something that's acknowledged for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And to your point, um, yeah, you're right on point with that. And the attacks have come, but I shake the attacks off, and it runs off me like water, and because I speak to the truth, and the truth don't lie, and I say that in one of my rhymes: truth don't lie. With the truth, the truth is like a shield, it's like a sword at the same time, and I just stick only to that truth, and I'm not trying to ruin anybody's bottom line. I'm not trying to. I really try not to diss anybody in that industry. It's not personal like that to them. I'm just saying is that it was personal to me because of how it was presented to me, that even put me on the radar. I didn't know anything about ADHD. I didn't know anything about these drugs. I didn't know anything about any of this until it almost happened to me. And since then, I've met parents who were single parents who lost their only child. Single parent lost their only child because of suicide as a direct result of these pills. I think about the Columbine shootings. I remember watching on TV and I was like, wow, what, who does this? Then you think about the Sandy Hook. Just think about all those future leaders that could have been leaders, that were killed by one senseless act of violence. And people say, well, why did he do it? Because of this, he had problems here and there. No, the bottom line was he was under the influence of these psychiatric drugs that alter your realities. They alter your mind. They do a lot of things that the industry who prescribes these drugs know they'll do. They say they will do, but they still prescribe these drugs, and they're making billions, trillions of dollars doing it. And it is criminal. So only thing I'm saying is put it on the table for discussion. Let's talk about it. Don't believe me. Don't believe me. I want you to go and research for yourself, because knowledge is power.
And I agree 100%. People should do the research, look into the matter. If there is somebody though that wants to do something, and they're not Chill E.B, and they can't get on a mic and make songs like you can, what's something that you would recommend to people that they can do if they want to get more information and they want to do something about this?
Well, if a person that has any experience in it, that as a support for that cause, I mean, maybe they could do a blog, or maybe they could contribute, or even comment on blogs that are sensitive to this issue. For people who have loved ones that are either uh, prescribed these type of disorders, for lack of a better word, or any type of medication or whatever that they're given, that they're prescribed, go to CCHR. I think it's cchrent.org, and they have a wealth of information and support that will help a person understand more of what's going on. But more than anything is support each other, and let's find holistic solutions to these problems, because food is medicine. Food is medicine, and I think that any ailment or any disorder or anything like that could be handled with food, a specific diet, minerals, supplement intakes that are natural. And we should start experimenting, down those lines of living healthy as a society, thinking healthy, living healthy, because food is a medicine. And I know that if you change the diet, from what I understand of what happened, my son now has a great diet, but from other people I know who had kids who were diagnosed ADHD, they changed their diet and gave them some supplements and minerals that the body needs. And these behaviors that were being labeled ADHD went away, and these people lived healthy. So I would say that would be a solution, and just be awareness, and help raise awareness.
That's truth, man. Listen, what about the future for Chill E.B, man? I want to know, like, after you've accomplished this, because this this is a really inspiring story for those that are listening. Because, you put down the mic for more than a decade. You came back strong and really defined yourself in a major way by taking up this cause. And you've since been to, I think you said 25 different countries
Yes,
in the last several years. So what does the future look like for you? Like what do you have planned?
I think the big plan for me, I'm going to put my name in the ballot in 2020, run for president. No, I'm just joking. I know. I'm just,
I was like, hey, I got an exclusive here.
oh no, just joking. The plan for me, man, is I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and keep sharing this knowledge with other people. I want to continue to meet other people and hear their stories and be able to share with each other. I want to continue to create. I think I'm always gonna create because I have creative juices going now, either producing music and sometimes writing the lyrics and performing. And I have a studio here that now I have that I can work out of and just create at whatever pace I want. And I think I want to hopefully be a good mentor, if you will, for some other up and coming artists that we can somehow collaborate together, and that I can somehow inspire and get behind the scenes and work with, just so that they could develop their craft more. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of the big picture, man, as I want to be uh, continue to be viable, more viable, should I say, and continue to grow spiritually as well. And so that I think that's the plan for me in the near future.
Sounds like a great one, man. Well, at the end of every episode, I always ask this question. For some, it's a bit of a challenge to answer because uh, there's so many things that people want to say about this question. But I'm going to ask you, what one work of art? It could be a painting, a book, an album, a song, a film, anything. Would you recommend every single person on Earth go check out?
I can say we're gonna get some plugs going on here, some couple of plugs here. I'm sitting here right now looking at this book. I have not read the book yet. I've had it long enough that I should have been able to read it 2 or 3 times. Hip Hop Will Save the World. This is your book, and not a shameless, not to be patronizing or anything like that, but I think that will be a book that everyone should read, at least from the couple of paragraphs that I read, um, because I believe in the title. The hip hop has the ability to save the world. It will save the world, and I would say that would probably be a great book. There's many
Thanks
books.
for that, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome, man. Another one would be under the album. I'd have to say my album, Born Suspicious. It's an EP. It's an EP that was released in the early '90s. It was distributed by Jello Biafra's label, the Alternative Tentacles. And Jello Biafra is a punk rock artist, and he's part of a group called the Dead Kennedys out of San Francisco. So I was the first rap artist that licensed my finished product on his label, and he released this for me in Europe as well as in the U.S. and Canada. And the EP is called Born Suspicious, and I think it's pretty relevant for the times that we're going on, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, and all the stuff that we're seeing socially, the social oppression and different things that we're experiencing as people. And there's a lot of different things on there that I'm rapping and talking about that addresses a lot of stuff. So I'd encourage people to check that out, not to shamelessly plug myself. Um,
And
as far as film,
where can people find that? By the way, Born Suspicious.
if you know what, I have a whole bunch of them here, so I have to find a way that maybe they can contact me and I can have it shipped to them or something.
Okay.
But I have CDs. I have vinyl for any vinyl heads out there. Yes, I do have the albums, the records, which I know is not a popular format nowadays, and I have cassettes, which You probably don't even know what a cassette looks like anymore. It's so old school. But I do have the CDs, quite a few of them. I know that some people were selling them online. I know Alternative Tentacles had it as you can order from them.
Okay.
But maybe David, you can maybe we can somehow post my information, be it social media or through my blog, where they could contact me, and then I could have it sent to them. But it's a pretty social, responsible project, and it was just a lot of things that I was witnessing and feeling during that time period that I put it all together in a compilation.
Yeah, that's nice, man. We can put a link in the description on this episode.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You can find me. I have a blog, so it's www.chilleb.blogspot.com. It's a lot of dots there.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook at Chill E.B on Facebook. I have Twitter, which is chill_EB. I'm also on Instagram.
All right, cool, man. The website? Do you have a website you can plug?
Yeah. Okay. Two of them actually. One is www.chilleb. That's CHILLEB.mobi, which is MOBI, which is short for mobile, which is a mobile website. And then there's chilleb.com, which is a website that's kind of in the mid. We're going to be getting some reconstruction work done on that.
All right,
But
awesome.
if they go to my blog page, I have all the social media contacts there. iTunes, YouTube, all these different things. You can just click on the link. So that's why I use the Blogspot as the primary homepage, because from there they can reach out and find me anywhere on the internet.
All right, so listen, everybody listening right now to this episode, I'm sure that you appreciate, this story, this inspiring guy who has traversed the entire world with his message and with what he is trying to do to uplift humanity and to do some good in the world. So do your best to support him. Go out there, follow him on social media, listen to his music, purchase some of his music, spread the word. And definitely, if you're interested, look more into this cause that he brought up. It's something that I also strongly believe in. You can go to cchr.org, I believe. We'll put the link in the description as well. But I want to thank you, Chill, for getting to be a part of this. It's definitely been one of my, favorite interviews because me and you, we share the whole hip hop thing together, and it's great to hear your story. I can definitely relate to it at many different points along it. But yeah, man, thanks again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, sir. And one other thing I failed to mention, I want to mention it now. It's very important, and it just dawned on me.
Sure.
Check out "They Don't Care." They don't care about us. "They Don't Care About Us" is a song that I wrote in response to this Dakota Access Pipeline situation that's going on,
Okay.
and it basically to support the Sioux Nation and all the natives in that area who are going to be directly affected by this pipeline. And the song is called "They Don't Care About Us." So I just ask people to watch it, the video, share the video, and to become more active and speaking out against that travesty that's going on there in North Dakota, South Dakota. And I have that link also on my blog page, and it's also on my YouTube page. They Don't Care About Us.
Perfect. Is the song itself on iTunes?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it is on iTunes. If it's not, it should be on there before the end of the weekend.
Okay, perfect.
I know my wife handles the administration for me on that, so I'm not sure if we actually put that on there yet.
Okay, so yeah, let's make that happen, and I'm sure by the time people are listening to this, it'll be there.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks again, man, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon so we can catch up and see what the future did hold for Chill E.B, man.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to everyone out there for listening and showing your support, and we definitely appreciate you.
Are you a super artist? Want to be one? We've got an awesome opportunity for you to tell the world and win something cool at the same time. Enter our Super Artist Selfie Contest for a chance to win our popular artist training course, Super Artist Bootcamp. Super Artist Bootcamp has 8 modules with 24 videos teaching artists how to build confidence, how to promote and sell their work, and how to achieve a creative life. We pick a new winner every week, and all you have to do to enter is take a selfie of yourself holding a piece of paper or sign that says Super Artist and post it on Instagram with the hashtag SuperArtist. Good luck and keep creating. It's time for some art trivia. Last episode we asked, what famous female singer's last recording was a birthday song for John Lennon? It was Janis Joplin. Here's a new question. What musical act won the first Grammy Award for hip-hop back in 1989? Think you know the answer? Tune in next episode and find out. Thanks for listening to this episode of Super Artist with David Carus. This podcast is recorded at Art Planet Studio in Taylor, Texas, in the historic McCrory Timmerman Building. All of the music in today's episode was produced by Ethergun. You can find his music on iTunes, SoundCloud, and pretty much anywhere online. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please hit that subscribe button and share this episode with your friends. We need more art and artists in the world, and your support of our show helps make that happen. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the future.